5G for privacy? Can it really be that 5G is the best thing for you and me if we really want privacy? Apple says, come and see our brand new iPhone because it's great. No, it's not. 5G is horrible. It's got health concerns. It's got tracking concerns. It's got major privacy concerns. It is a massive issue across the board. It was jammed through even when a lot of people had a lot of issues and a lot to say about it. So I'm going to show you the phone I recommend that is actually 4G, because unfortunately a lot of the 2G and 3G are going to the wayside soon, and so we're kind of stuck with 4G and up. We're kind of stuck between the rock and a hard place with some of this technology, but today in Operation 5G, we're going to talk about it. So in a minute, I'm going to get into a good recommendation that I have for a phone that would probably be a good option for a lot of you. I will also link it down below after I talk about it here in a second. But the issue with 5G is massive. First of all, the tracking capabilities and the signal strength. So a lot of you have probably seen me and pretty much any other privacy advocate show these. These are blackout bags, RFID blocking bags. What it does is you put your phone, so I keep kits, right? I call them kits. Really all it is a SIM card and I date it. I keep a phone and I keep possibly a charger in this little slot and then the bag, and then I can use these for different things. And I've talked about my phone system before. So this particular one is on Mint Mobile, and we'll get into this in a second. But the problem with most smartphones, so Apple and Android, and I mean even some of these right now with the signal strength, is it's making it increasingly easy to track people. So how are they able to track you? Well, we've talked about this, and I've broke this down in depth on this channel, so you guys can check it out or over at privacyxproject.com. But there's a few ways they can track you. The most common people talk about is GPS, which is true, GPS. You've got triangulation, which was a popular way back in the day, and then you have things like Bluetooth, and Bluetooth is becoming really, really sketchy. And as the signal strength gets better, the ability to hack into people's phones and the ability to do nefarious activities through Bluetooth as the signal strengthens is a problem. You've also, of course, got Wi-Fi signal, which is a very popular vulnerability, especially if it's not your own Wi-Fi. But nowadays, even with your own Wi-Fi, because of how the firewalls load in most systems, right, you could do a hard reset and hack into somebody's machine. It's not that hard. In fact, one of the easiest ways to hack into somebody's machine, if you're outside of their house, is to reset the power. And that's kind of a scary thing for a lot of people. And I would say 97% of people don't even understand how that works if you've got an off-the-shelf or a ISP-issued router. Now, if you've taken the steps to harden your security as you should, then you're a little bit safer, but that's the problem. Well, phones are even worse, because I don't want to say phones weren't developed to be private, because in theory, you've got the telecommunication laws, and you would assume that phone calls should be private, right? Text should be private, right? Messages and social media should be private, right? Or at least you should have some control over it. Well, you really don't, and you haven't for a long time. Text have zero privacy, so people say go to Signal. Well, Signal has problems, but you need an end-to-end encrypted solution. So you look at a lot of these other solutions, and I've talked about my favorite messengers here on Privacy X. You guys can watch that video. But the problem with end-to-end encryption is who is hosting it? Who is the middleman? And, how is this encryption structured? Because encryption is starting to become one of those words that is tossed around a little bit too willy-nilly, right? It's just a word that's thrown out there. And if you throw something out too much, it starts to lose credibility and starts to lose meaning. And encryption, unfortunately, is one of those words that's starting to head down that path, and that's a slippery slope. So when it comes to tracking the traditional phone, it has become shockingly easy to do so. And that's a problem, not just for tracking and cataloging everything you do, but also being able to get into your phone, which for a lot of people is their world. A lot of people's bank information. There's people who will have their files and their iCloud on their phone. People keep like tax documents, business documents, personal documents, pictures. And we live in an era where people take a lot of pictures they probably shouldn't, and they keep on their phone. I don't even know what to say, right? We live in an era where a lot of people just have their whole life built into this device, and these devices are not secure. And we've got companies coming out lying to you, and then with the increase in the signal strength, this is becoming a problem. Now, you can watch these high quality, like Uber tech, they're gonna get down to the gigahertz, but you and I don't care about that. Like, I could break down the actual tech specs of any technological device, or you could just read the back of the box, pretend you're a wizard, right? But the reality is, it comes down to the strength of the signal, and this is becoming a problem. Not just for health problems, but that alone is a concern, but also for, shall we say, vulnerabilities when it comes to hacking, and that's a serious problem, and then also vulnerabilities when it comes to tracking. So what is my favorite phone? Believe it or not, it is the Nokia 6300 4G. This is actually a really good phone, and it is currently on Mint Mobile. It is, oops, oh. It's currently on Mint Mobile. If I can log in, there you go. So yeah, and it's a good phone overall. I've been a fan of this phone for a long time, mostly because it just kind of does everything you would want it to do. It's just a basic, simple phone. It's got a dual SIM, but I just use Mint Mobile on it. I change my number every 3 months. It's kind of what I call an acquaintance phone, right? I have several phones and several phone numbers, and nobody has my real phone number because the fact is, I'm a big proponent of your real phone number. If you have a phone number, it should never be linked to you, right? And if you have a carrier or a provider, there is no way to have like T-Mobile or AT&T. Now with Mint Mobile, you can use an alias. Everything I do with Mint Mobile is an alias. In fact, almost everything I do, period, is an alias online, and all these different things. You use aliases for these different things. However, whenever you sign up for these services, whenever you sign up for emails, whenever you sign up for anything. But what I will tell you is if you use T-Mobile, AT&T, Verizon, any of these services, you're going to have your name and your social pretty much tied to it. Or if it's a business phone, your EIN tied to it. That's your real identity. So you should not be giving that number out ever. You should be using a service like Pseudo or one of these other services to mask your real identity and never give it out. You shouldn't even give it out to the closest people in your life. Well, I use a phone like this where I can efficiently change things up every 3 months. So you can buy, I think it's like 3, 6, or 12 month. I do it every 3 months just because I like to keep switching the number. So nobody ever really has it. Like I said, it's kind of this particular phone. I meet people, acquaintances, give out my number. And then if I become friends with somebody, I might give them a different number. I've got a whole host of numbers. And it kind of, you work your way up the ladder, right? Or if not, it's somebody I meet and we're talking to, and 3 months I'll change my number and they'll never have my number again. So you kind of move those things around. But this is a really good phone because the ability to track this phone in an RFID bag is much more difficult. And so what I always do is turn the phone off. And the thing is, what you want is you want a phone that you can actually take the battery off. Now, you see the camera on this phone? It looks like a black camera, doesn't it? It's not. Now look at it. Look at it again. It's a piece of gaff tape, right? It looks perfect. It looks perfect, but it's a piece of gaff tape. Right, so, and there is no front-facing camera, which I like, so I don't have a camera spying on me at all times. So it's a piece of gaff tape. Also, what I use on this phone is, I got one right here. I use a mic lock, which I've done an in-depth review on mic locks. So I'll put a mic lock in the top, a piece of gaff tape here, and with you can see how it's form-fitted. With this on, it looks like a camera. Like it doesn't look all cheap and crappy with tape all over your phone. It looks good. And you might think, oh, listen, this phone is just for specific communications. Yes, it is technically a smartphone. And nowadays, there's really no phone dumb enough to where it is just untrackable. I mean, even a lot of the new flip phones, obviously you've probably seen flip phones are coming back, but the thing you want with the phone, is you want a phone where you can take the battery out. That's really important. Now, even with a smartphone, there's a smartphone right here. This is the Pine phone, which an in-depth review, actually 3 in-depth reviews are coming up on the Pine phone. This is a great phone. There is some quirks, and I'm going to talk about those. I've got 3 videos coming up that I've been shooting. These are a lot more in depth, a lot of B-roll, a lot of kind of you know, behind the scenes, how I actually use this thing. But the battery comes out. So this is a full-blown smartphone where the battery comes out. There is some quirks with this, and I'm hoping updated versions fix it. But as of right now, for a basic phone, I love this phone because of its Nokia. The brand's been around forever. Its usability, its reliability, it's strong. I've dropped it 20 times. It doesn't even have a scratch on it. It's tough. It's durable. I just love this phone. It's a great all-around phone. You can do your email and all that stuff on this phone if you want to. You can go to the App Store if you want to and get a lot of apps. Not all apps, but a lot of them. You want to look that up before you buy it. But I don't use most apps, and especially not on a phone like this, right? So this, to me, is my favorite phone, and this is how you fight against 5G. Now, what about when they cancel 4G in 5 to 10 years, and then we start building our own phones? I don't know. I mean, at that point, we might be able to do Wi-Fi only. I think where it's going is we're actually going to have Wi-Fi only on a lot of devices, so that's an option. There's a lot of more in-depth things you can do if you don't use a SIM card and a cell service, because we're going to have satellite Wi-Fi, and that's kind of the way things are going. So there is potentially some options, especially if you live in more of a suburban or city-esque area. You live in an area that, you know, if you live really remote, you could have some problems. You might want to start using radios, ham radios. But if you live in like a city, like, you know, Austin or Miami or Vegas or LA, I mean, if you live in these places, even, you know, even Denver or like one of these places is a little bit more populous, I think things are going to pivot a little bit, and eventually phone service is going to go a little bit of the way of TV service. So there is some hope there. But yeah, long term, I don't think so. So I think you guys should check out this phone. I've been playing around with it a lot. I have a standalone review coming on this phone, but I'm going to give you a little spoiler. The phone's incredible. I really, really like it. And again, you can put it in, I've done tons of tests in the blackout bag that you can find at privacyx.com. So the blackout bag we recommend at privacyx.com. If I turn the phone off, take the battery out, and put it in this bag, pretty much impossible to track this phone because of the signal strength versus the bag. Whereas 5G, the problem, well, first of all, with most of these new phones, you can't take the battery out, and they're not your phone, and Apple can get right into the system where you have open source Linux on this phone, closed source Apple on this phone. So that's a problem, right? I test most phones, at least most notable phones. I was also testing this one right here, which is also another really good phone. I got a review coming up on this one. I got reviews coming up on so much tech because the tech company is hitting us so hard in the privacy community because they basically say privacy is not important. They basically say we own you and your life and your data and your privacy, and if you don't like it, tough. And there's a lot of people in the privacy community like myself that are pushing back, and there needs to be more people pushing back. I mean, if you want to buy crypto, if you want to live a private life, create an anonymous business, if you don't want to be taxed into bankruptcy like the government's talking about right now, I mean, we've got a president who literally is default on his own taxes, and he's telling Americans to pay their fair share. What? Really? I mean, this is the world we're living in right now. It just came out that our president is behind on, you want to talk about Trump's tax returns, Biden is, the irony that Biden is behind on his federal taxes by about 500 grand and then wants people to pay their fair share. We're living in like bizarro land, so taking back your privacy is vital. If you haven't already, make sure you go to privacyxproject.com and check out Blackout Bag we talked about. Check out the phone. There'll also be a link for the phone down below. Appreciate you guys checking out this video. Make sure you go all in everything you do. Take back your privacy because privacy is right. And it's right that needs to be protected. And if you don't protect it and I don't protect it, you can bet that the corporations and the big companies and the government is not going to protect it. So have an amazing day, guys, and I'll see you in the next video.